Hello, my name is Jay Carpenter of PHONEWORD Workshops, and today is Wednesday, February the 18th, 2015, and it's 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to be talking about DNS, the domain name system, and blockchain. How might the two work together, or how might blockchain incorporate DNS-like functionality? So this is actually part 2 of 2 today. Last week on February the 11th, we did another session, and that covered most of the material for this month. So today we're just going to do kind of an overview and see if there's any pieces that we missed and answer any questions that people might have. So let's go ahead and get started and start the screen share, jump into the presentation. So I'm just going to briefly go through the presentation because we did cover it in detail last week, and you can find that video below this video if you're on the PHONEWORDworkshops.com webpage under the Workshops tab. So our intention is really to foster innovation and to try some new things, looking at a variety of naming, addressing, and numbering methods and techniques and approaches. So our intention for the February workshops is to foster collaboration, exploration, and experiments. And the areas we're exploring this month involve blockchain technology, DNS, and how DNS functionality and blockchain technology might be merged together. So the overall, one of the dimensions that we're looking at is how might our disparate address chaos that we currently experience day in, day out with all these different addresses, how might they come together and work in a harmonized or somewhat harmonized fashion? So that's really the initial intention and goal of the PHONEWORD workshops, as well as other initiatives that are out there. This involves exploration and innovation. None of this is set in stone. None of this is, you know, in a fashion that's ready for commercial rollout. This is, we're really in an inquiry phase and an exploration phase. And the idea is to emphasize and foster innovation. So, blockchain technology. Over the last 2 months, I've really started to focus on blockchain technology and what's possible with this new emerging decentralized trust architecture. And I think it's incredibly exciting. I think it's incredibly powerful. And by everything I can determine, this could be incredibly disruptive on a variety of different applications, methods, and scales. So there's a presentation that is, I think, quite well done by, I might pronounce his name incorrectly, but Matthäus Vonder. And in it, about 47 minutes into it, he starts to look at the Namecoin blockchain and the Namecoin application, which was the first fork of Bitcoin. And I'm not going to go into a lot of depth here because we covered it last week, but indeed, I think that Namecoin and the idea of having domain registrations and other registration-like functionality on the blockchain is very exciting and holds a lot of interesting value propositions. So you can see what he says about it. He does a great job of covering the secure domain space thoroughly, from DNSSEC to DNS curve to Namecoin specifically, and you can go through that. Now, what I found out is that Namecoin really, I would say, even though there's a lot of people in this space that are interested in doing something like Namecoin, it looks like Namecoin is still needs work, and I'm not quite sure how viable it is at this point. So Namecoin is held up as an example by many people, and I think that the use case is very strong. The particular application and viability of Namecoin as it stands right now, that I'm not quite sure about. And I have not provisioned anything on Namecoin, haven't done any mining, haven't done any registration, any of that. So Namecoin is still an area of investigation. So even though it's very much in an experimental stage at this point, I think the use case, this domain registration in a decentralized trust peer-to-peer construct, is very, very compelling. So I'm quite sure there will be additional experimentation and efforts in this area. It's just hard to say how that will actually emerge. So here's the presentation that you can watch. And again, about 47 minutes into this, he transitions from what's pretty much currently in place in terms of DNSSEC, and then he talks a little bit about DNS curve, which is an elliptical cryptography-based construct. He then moves into how Namecoin is even more different than either of these other two approaches to DNS security and DNS functionality. So I'm not going to cover that other than saying those particular items of observation at this point. You can watch it. Then the other two presentations are very much experimental and very much in the realm of, let's say, the hacker space. And there's a presentation, it's fairly short, less than 10 minutes, where a couple of fellows in the San Francisco area, I believe, use what somebody else created based upon the Ethereum proposed architecture. They basically synthesized a contract, what a contract might look like on the Ethereum, using the Ethereum approach, and how it might be used to create domain registrations on Namecoin as an example of how this whole registration process might work, along with some logic and functionality added on top of the registration element. So you can watch that. I think it's interesting, definitely. And then this is the actual mocked up registration process, and you can follow that. Again, this is less than 10 minutes, done by the same fellows, and I think it's interesting. So why is this important? Who cares? Well, I think it's very important. I think there are a lot of fundamental issues and considerations and approaches that are bubbling up around domain security, internet security, and how's this all going to work? How's the governance going to work? Specifically, I think the biggest area is this tug of war between centralized control and decentralized control, or which is different than distributed control, but basically this centralized versus decentralized conversation, the volume seems to be increasing on that conversation for sure. And again, this is a global opportunity that spans, as far as I can tell, all geographic boundaries and many, many areas. So it's much more than just cryptocurrency. It's much more than just domain registration. It's really a profound and fundamental area and direction that all of this blockchain is headed. So I won't say any more about that. In summary, we're looking at ways to collaborate and create open source software, perhaps federate enum registries. We'll definitely federate enum registries is one of the key initiatives and intentions of the PHONEWORD workshops, as well as other areas. And we're looking at how to resolve dispute resolution, experimenting with governance, building experimental platforms. We're inviting guest presenters to join the process. And I know I had talked about in the last session, perhaps I'll actually doing some coding today. We're not going to do that, but definitely incorporating coding into these workshops in the future is the intention. So that's it for the second part 2 of 2 of the PHONEWORD workshops. And I'm going to stop the screen share right now. And bear with me just a moment. So I'd like to bring to your attention a couple things that are going to be happening that I'm very excited about, and I think open a great opportunity if you're interested in this space. But next week on the PHONEWORD Forum, we are very fortunate to have Dr. Robin Hanson of George Mason University will be joining us. That's at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. You can go to phoneword.com, PHONEWORD.com. Look under the PHONEWORD Forum. You can see all the details, how to join, how to participate in the conversation. We also have a very special guest, Andreas Antonopoulos, who's the author of Mastering Bitcoin, will be joining us. And there are some other invitations that have been extended. And we've gotten a tentative yes from Dr. Henning Schulzrenny, who's the former Chief Technology Officer of the Federal Communications Commission, Professor of Computer Science at Columbia University, and also a member of the Internet Hall of Fame for his authorship and co-authorship, actually, of the SIP protocol, Session Initiation Protocol. And with any luck at all, we will have Henning joining us. We got some other people that have been invited, and we're waiting to hear from them. But it should be a very interesting session. We're going to be talking about network security using market approaches. And we're going to look at how could network security be enhanced using some traditional approaches like bounties, rewards, and so forth. But specifically, the innovative area is in prediction markets. And Robin Hanson is an expert in this area, and he is a figure that's being asked to join in some of the blockchain-oriented sessions, such as O'Reilly Books held a radar summit at the end of January regarding blockchain and Bitcoin, and Robin Hanson was one of the panelists that was there to talk about some of the elements of prediction markets. So I'm looking forward to that, and I invite you to join either via telephone or watch us via Google Hangout. If you're really interested in joining the actual session via Google Hangout, send me an email. There's instructions on the PHONEWORD.com website under the PHONEWORD forum on how to do that. In terms of the workshops, we have the workshops that are held on the second Wednesday of the month and the third Wednesday of the month in March. On March the 11th will be the second Wednesday, and at 5 p.m. Eastern, that will be the second Wednesday workshop for PHONEWORD workshops events, and don't have a topic yet. However, we'll let that topic be known a couple days in advance before the workshop. The third Wednesday will be on March the 18th, and that again will be at the same time this workshop's happening, which is 11 a.m. Eastern. And invite you to join. If you have topics or suggestions, please go to the contact button or tab on PHONEWORDworkshops.com and feel free to submit any comments or questions or topic suggestions that you might have. So thank you for joining, and stay tuned. I know a lot of this sounds very out there. However, I do think that there are some very, very exciting pieces that are coming together, and although we are small in terms of participation at this point, I think this is an area that a lot of people have not looked at yet, and as they start to look at it, as they start to get what is really being proposed here, I think the interest will definitely increase. So thank you very much for tuning in, watching this, and feel free to tune in the future and contact me, and by all means throw your hat in and join the conversation, join the collaboration. Have a great day.